I'm always gratified when there's interest in the Eagle Beak, mate. We are slowly converting the internet one video at a time to the SMPs. It's taken a long time.
This one does look better without the graphic, I reckon.
It does look a bit better.
It's still got the eagle though.
I mean, the previous generation were beautiful anyway, you know, but these modern ones, they do look a bit nicer. They've changed a bit of the foam and stuff, so we'll talk about that now. So these are the new versions. The one we've got on the bike behind me is called the Evo, and the one here is called the Evo Plus. Now, my understanding of these is that they are the same saddle, with this one has more padding. The Plus has thicker padding, which does change the shape of it slightly in terms of the dip as viewed from the side and the effective width of the wings at the back, but they're pretty similar.
Looks less dippy.
Less dippy, yeah. It's a very, very similar shell shape to the Blaster and the Nimba. Now, you may recall from previous videos we've done about these, the Blaster and the Nimba are the two sort of most modern of the road generation that they brought out. These are my two favorite SMPs of all time now for the vast majority of people. They're the best two. Basically, the Blaster is a narrower version of the Nimba. They've essentially flattened the rear of the saddle off and made it less curved as viewed from the side, so it doesn't have as aggressive a curve as the old light 209 and the dynamic, right? So these tend to suit people who rotate their pelvis forward pretty well, better than those other ones do. The new versions, in terms of shape, very, very similar to the Blaster. In fact, I suspect it's probably the same shell shape or something really similar, with a bit of a different padding system on it. So you can see they've obviously removed the stitching. It's no longer covered with leather. I believe these are sheep's leather, but I'm not sure about that. It might be kangaroo leather. And this is some sort of synthetic material with what feels like a different foam in it. Okay. And this is more of a sort of a modern design. The old design was that the leather was kind of wrapped around the outside of the shell and stapled on the inside. These are more of that sort of modern design where they're tucked in under the foam and just held on with glue. So that's managed to shave, I think, about 60 grams off the weight of them. I think these are about 215 or 220 or something. These are about 280, something like that, depending upon which model you get. So they're a little bit lighter and they sure as heck look better. Yeah, much less.
Cheaper if they're...
I wish I could say yes.
No, okay, right, no.
The wholesale pricing and therefore the recommended retail is pretty much exactly the same. Okay. Yeah. So these, I've ridden the Evo that's behind me there, and it's very, very similar to the Blaster. It's a good seat. It is a really good seat. It tends to suit people with ischium separation distances of sub 120 millimeters in my experience. And if you're between sort of 120 and 140, you probably want to go for the Nimba still. Yep. And then wider than that, you go into the light 209 and those sorts of ones.
Yeah, because the Blaster didn't work for me, and I'm a Nimba man. So you wouldn't recommend these new saddles for me?
I'll be interested in your take on it when you get a chance to ride this one in more depth to see if you can determine much difference between that and the Nimba. But I think that feels a lot more like a Blaster to me. Okay. Yeah. So a really good seat. It's got a nice sort of padding system on it. It just feels very similar to that and a bit lighter and much nicer to look at. Okay. They've also gone with a black rail and it's still got the nice knurling on it. So it's pretty grippy. So you get less slippage of the seat. Angulation, all the same sort of rules apply as the previous gen, which is basically to set the bike on a level surface and have about a 14 or a 12 millimeter gap between this highest point of the curvature at the front and the highest point at the rear. So put a level across it and then get about a 12 to 14 mil gap at that point, which is about the width of one of my index fingers here. So the same kind of an angle is pretty much the right way to go. A nice redesign of the classic sort of system that they've always had, and it's sort of made it a bit more modernized, which I think a lot of people will like.
Yeah, I think aesthetically it's a lot more pleasing, and it sounds like in terms of the engineering design, not too dissimilar to what they've already got. Yeah. It's probably more of an aesthetic thing.
I believe so, yeah. It's and that is probably, it's one of the biggest sticking points for people, so I think that's quite viable. I think it's a great shape. I still come back to this. I've got the Blaster on my other bike, and I still think this is slightly better for me, but it could be a matter of just more time on that, and I would be swayed to come around. But they are very, very similar, yeah. So that's the new SMPs, the Evo and the Evo Plus. Quite a good seat. probably aim for, you know, on the narrower side of the ischium separation distance, but a really good saddle as an all-rounder too. So I'm yet to try the Evo Plus. So this one's going to go on the bike at some point, and we'll just have to drop the seat 3 or 4 millimeters because of the thicker padding.
Yep.
And we'll see if there's much difference in terms of the feel of this one.
Yeah, cool. So if anyone wants a deep dive on the SMP now, maybe you can point to somewhere where they can, you know, but you've done a video deep diving on these. So,
we have. We've ad nauseum ad-libbed about these, mate. We've we waffle on, don't we, about the Eagle. But yeah, a much better looking design. So yeah, cool. Very, very well done, guys.